Welcome to round 4 of the Abstrakt Sales Academy. I'm sure you figured it out. Every time we check in every month, you know for each round I'm going to bring the fire to you because I've got passion and fire to give, and I want to inspire you to continue to get a little bit better every single day, to be inspired to go to that next level, to continue to impact others and to make a difference. Now, before we dive into something I love talking about with sales forces, 7 psychological sales triggers, I want to talk to you again about the importance of process. You're going to hear me talk every month about process. And as you already know, we've developed and talked about your prize fighter day, the things that you can achieve personally, professionally, and in your service to other people every day. That's the process that you can attack every single day to drive results. Now, we've seen this process, the attacking of the process, enable individuals to accomplish incredible things. One national sales force this past year went from $32 million of sales to $52 million of sales in the last 12 months. Allowing each individual in that company to develop their prize fighter days. And in our work coaching the vice president of that company, it's been the continued accountability to those prize fighter days that has driven growth in the midst of adversity. I know it can do the same for you. Just like it has for attorneys, who I've helped them recognize, you're in sales too, to drive million-dollar practices year over year. To work with individuals in financial services, to go to what's called top of the table all over the world in Singapore, Canada, and across the United States. All the way to sales teams from coast to coast in car sales, financial services, marketing companies to go to the next level. How do they do it? Because they get crystal clear on where they want to go. And then they take a look daily to the habits and disciplines it'll take to drive that success, to allow the dreams to become a reality. That's how companies grow. And recently I had the opportunity, let me share this with you, 4 amazing stories that will solidify the importance of process. Had the opportunity to get together with my friend Antonio Esfariandi, the #1 poker player in the world. When you ask Antonio, what makes you successful? He starts talking about the process. Doing yoga, paying attention to nutrition, studying how other players play. Everything he mentioned was all about process. And in everything that he mentioned, you were able to break down each and every single step and be able to say, well, that was a choice. Whether you either choose or you choose to, yes or no, I'm going to do yoga today. I'm either going to pay attention or not pay attention to my nutrition. I'm going to do the studying of the game I need to study, or I'm going to choose not to. I also had the opportunity to get together with Tyron Woodley recently, the #1 contender in the welterweight division for the UFC in the world. It was the same. It was process. It was the things he knows he can do every single day that will drive him performing at his best. How about a book I recently read? I know I talk to you guys occasionally about books. I've written many books. Most recently, Leave Your Legacy. If you want to continue to drive the process to keep your mindset focused on getting to that next level, Leave Your Legacy is the story, the fable of how you can take everything that we've been talking about and learning and continuing to implement them in your life by hearing a story. And that's the feedback we've been getting. People are loving the story because it helps them embrace these concepts better. But let me sell somebody else's book. Mike Matheny wrote a book called The Matheny Manifesto. He's the manager for the St. Louis Cardinals. And when you read his book, you recognize he talks about the importance of process. Mike Matheny was given the opportunity to be the manager of the St. Louis Cardinals after legendary manager Tony La Russa retires. La Russa is one of the greatest legends of all time in managing, a Hall of Famer. Mike Matheny had never managed a team other than his kids' Pee Wee League teams. So many people would look at it and say, well, Matheny was just set up, it was to fail. How could the guy ever succeed? And what a great situation for the Cardinals. You put a guy in there who has no experience. And you know what? Following Tony La Russa, whatever happens, if it works out, great. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Mike Matheny never approached it that way. because Mike Matheny was an intentional leader. And when you read the book, you'll understand how he pulled things that he learned as a player, things that he learned from his coaches, intentional ways to be in life, all process-driven. And he knew with conviction and passion and fire that the team would be successful through the transition of La Russa if each individual owned the process and their piece of the puzzle. That's why I have conviction and fire for this opportunity to be with you for each and every single round, to keep going back to the process that will drive success. Yes, it has nothing to do with sales language. We will dive into sales stuff today. But the process has nothing to do with sales language, prize fighter days. But it's about you giving your best. And when you get into that ideal mindset, just like Antonio Esfariandi, just like Tyron Woodley, and just like Mike Matheny and the Cardinals, great success will happen. That's why the Cardinals continue to be successful, because it's come down to the process. Now, the last example I want to give you, it's another book, and it's all about Michael Jordan, arguably the greatest athlete to ever walk the face of the earth. Now, many people may not remember, and some of you may be watching this, you weren't even born yet, but there was a period of time when Michael Jordan actually was in this moment where he said, I need to get tougher, I need to do more. What will be the difference for me in my career? And this happened right after the NBA Finals when the Chicago Bulls were playing the Detroit Pistons. Back in the 80s, the Detroit Pistons were known as the bad boys. I mean, they were beating people up. They might as well have been a football team the way that they played on a basketball court. They were tough. They got nasty. They had grit. They had fire, and they let people know it. That's why they were the bad boys. And they beat Michael Jordan up in these finals, and they won the NBA championship. It was after that NBA Finals that Michael Jordan said, enough is enough. And he had the opportunity to meet with a trainer, both on the physical side and the mental side. And he met with this trainer. His name was Tim Grover. And this story comes from a book that Tim Grover has written called Relentless. And in this book, Tim Grover goes into the initial dialogue and conversation he had with Michael Jordan. And he started talking about Michael's mindset after that series against the Detroit Pistons. And then he started explaining to Michael, here's the solution. Here's the solution. Here's how we're going to get through this. And he broke down for Michael the process. Here's what we'll do, here's what we'll eat, and here's how we will repeat that process over and over and over again. Just like your prize fighter day. For you to drive success. Because remember, you chose your prize fighter day based upon the things you want for your life. And when you drive those daily disciplines, it'll drive success. So here, Michael Jordan, one of the best to ever walk the face of the earth, Tim Grover sharing with him, here's the process. And Michael Jordan says, too good to be true. It's too good to be true. It can't be that easy. You can't tell me that's it. And Tim Grover said, that's what we're going to do. And this will be the difference. Just like I could say to each and every single one of you right now, our work together on the mental side is going to be the difference. He says it to Michael Jordan. And then down at the bottom of this paragraph, it says, Michael Jordan gave me 30 days. Under that sentence, Tim Grover writes, I stayed 15 years. And then under that sentence, it's Tim Grover shares that when Michael Jordan retired, Michael Jordan said to me, if I see you in my neighborhood ever again, I will shoot you. Why did Michael Jordan say that? Because Tim Grover had driven Jordan to be relentless over all those years to the process that would make Michael Jordan successful. The reason why I come back to your prize fighter day every single month is because that's your process. That's your opportunity to tackle on a daily basis the things that you want to do personally, professionally, and in your service to others. So when you look in that mirror at the end of the night, you know that you can answer the question. If you ask yourself, did I give it my very best today? You can look and you can say yes. And on days where potentially you maybe fell short, you can look in the mirror and say, based upon my performance today, what can I improve tomorrow? For Michael Jordan, greatness is intentional. For Mike Matheny, greatness is intentional. For Tyron Woodley, greatness is intentional. For Antonio Esfariandi, greatness is intentional. For the staffing firm I worked with that went from 32 million of sales to 52 million in 1 year, greatness is intentional. How intentional are you in attacking greatness every single day? I get so fired up when I think about you performing the daily habits every day for your prize fighter day because of the success it'll mean in your life as you write the story of your legacy. All right, now let's dive in. Let's dive into 7 psychological sales triggers. Now, I get fired up when I have the opportunity to work with sales teams. That's why I love the Abstrakt Sales Academy, because it's the opportunity for me to be with you. It's like I'm right in your boardroom. I'm right in the cubicle. I'm right in the zone of bringing the fire and inspiration to you from 20 years of research from working with the best. You know, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a social worker. I didn't spend decades upon decades researching topics. I didn't just spend time going out and getting lots of degrees. I have degrees in life from working with some of the best in sports and in business and personal experience in sales. I've been selling for over 20 years. So when I bring these 7 psychological sales triggers to you, it's coming from real life experience from some of the best that I have ever known in sales. From books that I've read, some research that I have done, from asking people what makes you successful, and learning from those companies that have done the research to analyze the sales process, what can take somebody to the next level with their sales process. We're going to uncover these 7 proven psychological sales triggers. Now, I do have one disclaimer before we start. I have to give you this disclaimer. This is going to help you understand the how and the why people make decisions. Very, very powerful stuff, and we have the ability to tap into somebody's mind. What I want to share with you, and this is most important, is to serve your clients and to do the right thing. One of my mentors, his name is John Doty, and John sells about $30 million in women's shoes every single year. That's a lot of women's shoes. And John, I remember asking him one time, probably 10 years ago, I said, John, what has made you so successful? And his answer was, I've always had the ability to go back. He said, if you do the right thing for people, you can always go back. So as I teach you these psychological sales triggers, remember, do the right thing for your clients. Have the right conversations with your prospects. Do the right thing. You'll always be able to go back because some of these triggers are so powerful that it opens up a door of manipulation. We don't want that. You already have all of the talent inside of you to go to the next level. Sometimes it takes a little work. You don't need to cut corners. But let's talk about your language, let's talk about your processes, and let's talk about these triggers because they'll take you to the next level. The first psychological sales trigger is using stories to sell. Now, American Funds, it's a financial institution that actually spent hundreds of millions of dollars studying the sales process. And they actually found that using stories to sell is the most important factor in a sales process. Now, even though they're a financial institution, they did their research based upon all industries, sales in general. It didn't matter if somebody was selling cars, they were selling mortgages, they were selling widgets, or they were selling financial instruments. It was blanketed research for sales. Using stories to sell was number 1. Here's what's interesting. I found out about their research. They actually did their research after I had already been sharing these 7 psychological sales triggers. Now, that doesn't mean I created using stories to sell. There have been books that have been written about this concept, magazine articles that have been written about this concept. And my personal experience has been an indicator that using stories to sell is what works in the sales process. You could probably right now, we could take a pause, and you could write down stories that you have already used to be successful in your sales practices. Why not continue to use those stories? If it can be the difference, use it. Here's another example I'll give you. Using stories to sell. Think of our first round, our second round, our third round. Think of today's round, round 4. What do I do to share principles and concepts? I always share a story. The reason why I do that is because it connects you to the emotion. It connects you to the fire, the passion, the excitement of the opportunity to work together. When I'm sharing that story of Michael Jordan with process, it's your opportunity to connect to how important the prize fighter day is for you on your journey. And we communicate that in such a way that it's all about you, not about me. It's all about you. Using stories to sell can be so effective. There's actually one marketing firm that I work with that when they used to do a tremendous amount of business in the car industry, there was one story where they actually worked with a car dealership that was selling 40 to 50 cars a month as an entire dealership. With their processes coming in, becoming a main arm for the sales process, they actually took that car dealership to 350 cars a month. Do you think they used that story in the sales process? All the time. And not only did they use it, but they got specific, and we'll talk about that later. They got specific about how that story played out so that the individual, the prospect, could see it, touch it, taste it, feel it, and have fire and conviction and passion to want to write that story with them. Using stories to sell is so powerful. Now, the second psychological sales trigger is giving a reason why. Now, this is really important. Let's think about this. Giving a reason why. Do you think it makes more sense with a prospect to tell them the reasons why you want them to do business with you? Or does it make more sense to be an active, engaged listener to understand the reason why they would engage in business with you? Right, so let's have a silly example that just totally embellishes this. It's totally crazy. But if I were to say to you, your ABC company, hey ABC company, I need you to buy from me today because it just so happens my kids, Isaac and Kennedy, they love ribeye steaks and truffle mac and cheese. And I need you to buy from me because if you buy from me today, I'm going to have the commission to put ribeye steak and truffle mac and cheese on the table. Now, I know that sounds crazy. But the point of me sharing that with you, it's not about us. It's not about you as the salesperson. It's about you connecting with the prospect or the client to understand their why. When they share what's important about their story, about their company, then you have the ability to speak to the reason why they would engage in doing business with you. If they say, we currently feel like we have a problem in this area, and you as the salesperson have the solution for that area, then wouldn't it logically make sense to have a conversation and say, in our initial meeting together, you had mentioned that you felt like this was a problem. This was an area where you had concern. It just so happens our team got together, and I believe we have a solution to address that issue. So you can have more comfort, certainty, and conviction that by our partnership together, we can help drive results in that area so you no longer see it as a problem, you see it as a solution. And here's how we're going to do it, with implementing X, Y, and Z. You're speaking specifically to their why. Speak to their why, not your reasons, to their why. Understanding somebody's purpose will help them take action. Just like the same for you when we go through the mental toughness side of things. If I tell you what to do, how likely are you to take action? But if I understand your purpose, your goals, and we constantly go back to what's important to you, that's your why, what you want to fight for in your life, how much more likely are you to drive those daily behaviors to turn those dreams into a reality? Now, I embellish again just a little bit. But it's almost like you have to have the mindset that the prospect could care less about you. Make it all about them. Now the reality is that's what I love about sales is you build these incredible relationships and you have the opportunity to go back and you become part of people's lives and they become part of your lives. That's the beauty of sales. So when I say that they don't care about you at all, probably not true. But when you approach that sales process, approach it like their concerns, their needs, their why, that's all that matters. And when you understand their why, you can help them take action to get them to where they want to go. The third psychological sales trigger is using specifics. Now, keep in mind, when we talk about using specifics, It's really a difficult thing for salespeople. And we're just, I'm just putting it out there because I care that much. I like getting real. I like being transparent. Most people see the salesperson as being untruthful. It's just the way that it is. I don't like it. I'm sure you don't like it, but it is the way that it is. So let's look at opportunity A versus opportunity B in terms of your language. So if you know that you have a product that could bring financial security to somebody's life, you tell me who you would rather buy from. Would you rather buy from the individual who comes in and says, look, if you save 15% of your income, 20%, let's use 20. If you save 20% of your income for the rest of your life, you're going to retire wealthy. Just save 20%. And as you get salary increases and you make bonuses over time, just keep saving 20%. You'll be fine. You'll hit all your retirement goals. Now, even if that's a true statement, it lacks specific information for somebody to be comfortable making a decision. That's the way I look at it. So let's look at the opportunity B, different set of lenses. If I were to say to an individual, our team is incredibly excited about the opportunity to get together with you and put together a blueprint for your financial security. There's a few questions I want to ask you today which will help me better understand what you want for your financial future and some of the different variables we're going to use to come to the numbers so we better understand the exact amount of money you need to save in order to hit your retirement goals. So for starters, how much money do you want per year when you retire? And let's say you start retiring at age 65. How long do you want the money to last? If somebody tells you $200,000, so you want $200,000 a year, you want that to last every year from 65 until what year? 95? Do you want to assume 95 is the year that you pass away? Okay, so we need $200,000 a year every year for 30 years. Now, one of the things that happens is we have to put market volatility into the equation. So let's use an average rate of return. What's the rate of return? You want to try 6%, 5%, 7%? What's your comfort level? They tell you 5. And then all of a sudden you help them better understand what inflation means to your money. So what's the inflation rate that we want to use? They give you all of the specific answers to these questions. And then all of a sudden, you can then make the statement to them, thank you so much for all the answers to these questions. Now I specifically understand some of the variables we can put in place so we will clearly know what it will take for you to hit your retirement goals and how much you need to save. Now our team is going to put together this blueprint. I'm going to get back together with you. We're going to educate you on what this looks like. It'll just be the first pass so we can make any necessary changes so that we can get this right, so you can better understand what you need to do regarding your money and your financial future long term. Okay, very specific on one side, very vague on the other. I know who you would rather do business with, the individual who uses the specifics. It takes a little longer to get there, doesn't it? But when you care about the wants and the needs of the client and you truly know their why, you will engage and you will deliver that specific information. And it's all about building a relationship. It's about building that trust. And when you're specific, you can do that. I drove millions of dollars in sales, personally, selling insurance and investments. I sold millions of dollars of business using that strategy with specifics. Not being vague. When you stay in that vague area, it opens up that opportunity for people to think you're untruthful. When you get specific, I would be coming back and helping people understand the answers they gave me. So if anything was wrong, no problem. We can change the answer that you had already provided. They know it was their answer, specifically what they wanted. Using specifics can be the difference for you. And when you're telling those stories, give specific examples. Give details so that they can see, touch, taste, and feel what the opportunity would be like to work with you. Now, number 4. I love number 4. It's curiosity. Now, here's what I know happens with salespeople. Salespeople get so excited to make the sale. When you are literally in that meeting and you know that somebody needs something. I'll just stay on insurance, right? So if somebody you know, they say, oh my gosh, I absolutely need to buy more insurance. It's like we're like a shark. We want to be all over them and tell them, here's what I think you should do and here's why you should do it. And boop, 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 boop. And it's just like you're flooding information at them. Did you ever think to yourself that when you do that, when you jump all over the prospect in that way, that the prospect clearly recognizes you haven't taken any time to actually take the information they've shared with you, to put together a recommendation. Now, even if it's right or it's partly right, it always makes a tremendous amount of sense. And this will drive the size of the sales that you make, and it'll drive the impact that you make when you take your time. See, because keep people curious. So now if somebody says they want insurance, or I know what a potential solution might be, go back to that language I used on using specifics. We're going to go back. Think of that language I used. We're going to put together a blueprint, an initial pass at what it means. All this money you've been saving all these places, we're going to clearly understand what saving all that money means to your financial future. Now the person's curious. What are the answers? How much do I need to save? Were you curious hearing me give that example? To wonder, what is it like? How much money do I need to save? How long is that money going to last? I want to know those answers. That's what you have the ability to do when you keep people curious. And when you schedule that closing meeting, people aren't going to cancel those closing meetings. They will show up because they're going to be curious to see the answer. The best example I can give you of how curiosity works, TV shows. They hook you right in right before they go to commercial. The best example, The Biggest Loser. They take Tommy. Tommy is 200 pounds overweight. And they literally show you a 2-week period of time where Tommy was attacking the process, doing what he needed to do to lose weight. Eating right, working out, and then at the end of the show, they put Tommy on this scale. I've never seen a scale like this other than The Biggest Loser. And all of a sudden, the scale goes, and then right when it's about to show you how much weight Tommy lost, they cut to commercial. Now, I don't know what it's like in your house, but when that happens in my house, I'll literally look at my son. I'll be like, Isaac, don't you dare touch that remote control. I have to know how much weight Tommy lost. See, they're utilizing curiosity. You have the ability to do the same thing with a client. If you know you have a recommendation that'll make the difference, try this language. In hearing your story today and some of the facts of your story, it actually makes me think very specifically of several other clients that we've worked with over the last 12 months. One of them in particular, their sales actually went from $32 million to $52 million by utilizing the opportunity to work with our firm to actually drive some of their sales and to attack and to better understand their sales process. Now they've implemented some of what we've done, it's driven that success. So I want to get together with our team and put together what some of the action steps would look like to drive the next level of success for you. I think you're probably going to have that VP, that president, that CEO, that CFO leaving going, I can't wait to see the steps for their process that'll drive revenue like that. Heck, even if it's not $20 million of growth, if it was 5, if it was 1, I'd be excited based upon where we currently are. Curiosity can make the difference in the sales process. Number 5, the 5th psychological sales trigger, it's authority. Now let me give you this example again from when I was in the financial services industry. There were things that I didn't know. I loved building relationships. I loved being out on the golf course. I loved doing all kinds of things, just building relationships. But actually the study of investments, how investments work in stocks and bonds, I didn't know as much about those things. So what I would always do, I would check my ego at the door and I would leverage to the authority. I was blessed to have the opportunity to have a mentor and a business partner named Scott. So I'd be in a meeting with, let's say, a multi-million-dollar client. He's got $5 million to invest, $10 million to invest. And I would sit with that individual and I would say, Marty, I would say, based upon some of the things that you're sharing, this is so similar to a few other clients we've worked with this year. We put together a blueprint for their financial security, and then I got them in the same room with Scott, my business partner. And I got to tell you, you are going to love meeting Scott. Scott's been in the business 25 years. The team manages over $300 million of money. It's one of the top wealth management teams in the United States. He actually has 3 full-time portfolio managers on staff. And I can't wait for you and Scott to get in the same room. I think you guys are going to get along great. He's all about education and you understanding what it means to save all of your money and how it's going to impact you in retirement long term. You see, I have the ability to say things about Scott. I can make him the authority, the expert, put him up on a pedestal. I can say things about Scott that he can't say about himself. You have the ability to do that in your sales process. You don't have to know the answer to every question. Sometimes it makes a lot of sense to say, right now, I think it's going to make more sense, rather than just giving you a quick answer, to go back and get with our team and one of the experts in the office who's worked with individual companies just like yours. And I can't wait to put together a recommendation and walk you through what that'll look like for you next week. leverage to the authority. Makes a significant difference in driving results for you. Number 6, scarcity. Scarcity is the 6th psychological sales trigger. Now I got to tell you, this is one of those, when I gave that disclaimer, this is that psychological sales trigger that can really open up for manipulation. Many people in sales, you may be given a deadline. Don't create false deadlines. If your company says, we are going to discount our product from now until January 1st, well, then you can accurately help somebody understand you have from now until January 1st to make your decision. If you don't make that decision by January the 1st, the price will increase. That's scarcity. It puts somebody into an environment where they have to make a decision or else there will be change. Now, I'll give you an example of where people oftentimes make up stories to apply scarcity when scarcity really doesn't exist. So when you've been in sales as long as I have, sometimes you start losing your hair. And when you do that, you can go get your hair cut at Great Clips. That's where I go. I go to Great Clips. So I go to Great Clips. I get my hair cut. So a couple of years ago, it was right around the holiday season. And I'm standing in line at the cash register, and there was one individual in front of me. And the woman behind the counter actually says to this man, hey, you see these cards? We got 3 left. You see these 3 cards? These are advanced purchase haircut cards. And if you purchase these cards, you can buy 20 haircuts, and it ends up costing you 50% of the normal cost for a haircut. The guy looks at her and he's like, well, that's a great deal. And she looks and she says, this is the last 3 that we have. So the next time you come in, we're not going to have any more of these cards. Now, I don't know if it was the way that she said it or me just understanding sales. I just knew. I knew that as soon as those 3 cards were gone, that woman was going to duck down, get under the counter, open up the door, and pull out a stack of those cards and put them back up on the table. In that situation, I knew she was using scarcity. Somebody taught her scarcity, but she wasn't using it in an honest context. If you have an opportunity, be it a pricing issue, a product is going to run out, you're going to lose inventory, use scarcity, but use it honestly. Because remember John Doty's words, you have to have the ability to go back. And when you're honest, you will always remember what you said. If you're constantly trying to create scarcity when it doesn't exist, you couldn't even remember the things that you said to people. Be honest, you'll always remember what you said, and people will continue to buy and buy and buy from you. The 7th psychological sales trigger, this is my favorite. And let me tell you, I'm going to apologize in advance because you know I got a lot of fire, but boy, do I get fired up. This is one of those, ooh, baby type moments. And it's when we talk about legacy. That's what fires me up. The opportunity to be with you, to be with your company, to help your company continue to grow your legacy. That's why I wrote a book, Leave Your Legacy. That's what inspires me. That's why I wear a bracelet every day, a bracelet that's legacy. That's why in the Mental Toughness Playbook, you have your legacy statement. Because I believe when you focus on your legacy, you will think on a whole nother level. So think of ways that you can apply legacy in the sales process. If your company is helping individuals write their stories, talk to them about legacy. Talk to them. Use stories where you've taken your passion, your fire, your conviction to help companies utilize your services to improve their businesses. That's what legacy is all about. It's about taking what has happened before you, having that opportunity right in front of your hands, and making it better to pass on to the next generation. And for your company, find the ways where your products, your services, your business can help people get better every day with that opportunity they hold in their hands of legacy to pass it on to another. That's what fires me up about my work with you, to help you write the story of your legacy. Whether it's embracing these 7 psychological sales triggers, these are proven. I know these can make a difference. These come from research from the John Gunker and the Wilson Learning Institute, from a company called CEB, Al Granum, American Funds, all this research that I've done to provide you with opportunities to get better in your process, to keep writing the story of your legacy. Can you tell I get fired up about this? I get fired up to help you continue to write the story of your legacy. So be it these 7 psychological sales triggers, be it continuing to inspire you to just believe in your prize fighter day. Round by round, this Abstrakt Sales Academy is about going to the next level. Think back to those stories we shared in our time together today. Antonio Esfariandi, #1 poker player in the world. Tyron Woodley, #1 contender welterweight in the UFC in the world. Mike Matheny, who's led the Cardinals to the World Series, to play in the World Series, to win the pennants, win their division, following a legend. Or Michael Jordan. It's all come down to process. That's why I love legacy at the end of those psychological sales triggers, and that's why I love always talking to you about legacy every single round and that process. Because when you believe in the process and you identify the process and you focus on those intentional behaviors will drive greatness. I can't wait to be with you for our next round, for round 5. Get ready, stay connected, stay focused, keep the fire burning, stay convicted, and stay focused on having a passion for the process of what you do, and the results will come. Until next time, go do great things.